The forest at the edge of the human colony was quiet, but not peaceful. Strange shadows moved between the thick trunks and soft, low growls echoed through the trees. Villagers whispered about a monster that lived there, a creature no one had seen clearly but that everyone feared. Its eyes, they said, glowed in the dark. Its claws could tear through metal. Its roar could shatter walls. At night, children were warned to stay inside, and even the bravest hunters avoided the woods. Eli, a young human with a curious mind and a fearless heart, had grown tired of the stories. While others stayed inside at night, he would look out at the forest, wondering what really lived there. Everyone said the monster was dangerous, but no one had proven it. Some said it was huge, others said it could talk, and some swore it was a shapeshifter. Eli knew one thing for sure: fear made people exaggerate, and he wanted to see the truth for himself. One morning he grabbed a small pack with food and water, wrapped a blanket around his shoulders, and quietly slipped out of the village. The villagers had already started their daily routines, so no one noticed him leaving. Eli followed the edge of the forest, stepping carefully over roots and moss. Birds scattered as he moved, and the soft rustle of leaves made his heart beat faster. He was alone, but he didn't feel scared, just alert and excited. After walking for a while, he reached a small clearing. Sunlight poured in, casting warm patterns on the ground, but it also made shadows dance in strange ways. That's when he heard it, a soft whimper, almost like a cry of pain. He froze and listened. The sound came again, closer this time. Eli followed it slowly, moving between the trees, until he saw a movement behind a fallen log. There it was. At first glance, it looked terrifying, just like the villagers had said. Its body was covered in dark, rough scales that shimmered slightly in the sun. Its eyes were golden and glowing faintly, and sharp teeth peeked from its mouth. But Eli noticed something else, something no one else seemed to see. The creature was trembling, one of its legs bent at an odd angle, and there was a deep cut along its side. It wasn't hunting, it wasn't angry. It was hurt and scared. Eli crouched a little, speaking softly. "Hey, it's okay. I'm not going to hurt you." The creature hissed and moved back, but it didn't run. Its ears, or whatever parts of its head looked like ears, twitched nervously. Eli could see its chest rising and falling rapidly. It was afraid. He slowly reached into his pack and pulled out a piece of dried meat. "I have food," he said. "You're safe." The creature stared at the meat, sniffing the air cautiously. Its tail twitched, and it let out a low rumble, almost like a growl mixed with a whine. Eli held the meat out gently, keeping his hands steady and calm. After a tense moment, the monster crept forward and sniffed the food. Carefully it took a small bite, then another. Eli smiled. "You're hungry," he said softly. "It's okay. I'll help you." Eli noticed how intelligent it seemed. Its eyes followed his every movement, and it tilted its head as if trying to understand him. He gently examined the injured leg. The scales around the wound were scraped, but there was no deep infection. Still, the creature winced and hissed when he touched it. Eli nodded. "I see, it hurts, but I can make it better." For the next few hours, Eli stayed with the monster, feeding it and speaking in quiet, soothing tones. He realized that it was not the fierce killer everyone feared. It was lonely, lost, and in pain. The villagers had never seen this side of it, only the glowing eyes and sharp teeth in the shadows. Eli decided it needed a name, a way to change the fear into something familiar. "Fluffy," he said with a laugh. "I'm going to call you Fluffy." The creature froze and stared at him. Its head tilted slightly, ears twitching. It didn't run, didn't hiss, it simply watched him. Eli took that as a small victory. He found a place near the log where Fluffy could rest safely. Using his blanket, he made a soft bed, careful not to touch the wound directly. Fluffy curled up slowly, still tense but less afraid. Eli sat nearby, keeping watch, understanding that the monster had not chosen to attack anyone. It had only survived, alone, hiding from a world that misunderstood it. As night fell, Eli lit a small lantern. The glow reflected off Fluffy's scales, showing the beautiful patterns and colors beneath the dark surface. He had never seen anything like it. Even the terrifying appearance had a strange elegance. Eli whispered, "You're not a monster, Fluffy. You're just different." The wind rustled through the trees, carrying strange sounds from deeper in the forest. Fluffy's ears twitched, but it stayed near Eli. The bond between them grew, small but strong. Eli understood that trust would take time, but this first step was the beginning. He had faced the fear everyone else felt and had discovered the truth. The creature was not evil or dangerous, it was simply misunderstood. By the time Eli returned to the village, he kept his discovery secret, knowing that most would not understand. He only knew one thing for sure: Fluffy needed him and he was ready to help. That night, as the villagers slept, Eli dreamed of glowing eyes and gentle rumbles, realizing that the monster in the woods was no longer a threat, it was a friend waiting to be trusted. From that night on, Eli returned daily, bringing food, warmth, and kindness. Fluffy began to respond, sometimes allowing Eli to touch its scales, sometimes nudging his hand as if asking for more attention. Each moment built a bridge between fear and understanding. Eli knew the villagers feared what they did not understand, but he also knew that one human's courage and empathy could change everything. By sunrise, the forest felt different. The shadows seemed less threatening, the rustling less menacing. Fluffy remained near the log, watching Eli with curious eyes. The first day of trust was complete. Eli smiled, knowing this was only the start. In a world full of fear and misunderstanding, he had found something rare: a friend in the monster and a bond that could grow stronger than any legend or tale of terror. Eli whispered softly, "We'll face this together, Fluffy. You and me." Fluffy responded with a low, melodic hum, almost like a promise. And for the first time, the monster in the woods was not alone. Eli woke early, the sun just rising over the trees at the edge of the village. His thoughts were already on Fluffy, the creature he had found injured in the forest. He had promised to help it, and he knew that building trust would take time. He packed a small bag with food, water, and a soft cloth to help care for Fluffy's wounded leg. Today he would spend hours with the creature, showing it that humans could be friends, not threats. When Eli arrived at the clearing, Fluffy was waiting. Its golden eyes blinked slowly, and it stayed near the log where it had slept. The creature had moved slightly, as if it remembered the warmth and safety Eli had offered the night before. Eli smiled softly. "Good morning, Fluffy," he said. "You slept well?" Fluffy tilted its head but did not move away. Eli sat carefully on the snow-dusted ground, pulling some dried meat from his bag. He broke it into small pieces and held them out. Fluffy sniffed the food cautiously, its body tense at first. Then, slowly, it stepped forward and took a piece gently with its teeth. Eli spoke in a calm voice, repeating the same words over and over so Fluffy could become familiar with his tone. "It's okay. You're safe. I won't hurt you." Hours passed like this, with Eli talking softly and offering food. Fluffy began to relax a little, though it still flinched at sudden movements or noises from the forest. Eli noticed that the creature's breathing had slowed, and it occasionally nudged his hand with its snout, testing whether he was trustworthy. Every small gesture of acceptance felt like a victory. Eli wanted to help Fluffy's leg heal. Carefully, he cleaned the wound with water he had warmed in a small container, being careful not to hurt the creature. Fluffy hissed softly but stayed in place, its trust growing. Eli wrapped the leg gently with the soft cloth, showing the creature that humans could be gentle. "See," he said. "That wasn't so bad, right?" Fluffy blinked and made a low rumble as if agreeing. Over the next few days, Eli returned regularly. He brought food, blankets, and even a small lantern so that Fluffy could feel safer at night. The villagers whispered about him, warning him that the creature was dangerous, but Eli ignored their fear. He knew the truth: Fluffy was not a monster. It was intelligent, capable of understanding, and capable of loyalty. Eli watched it carefully, learning its behaviors, noticing how it tilted its head when curious, how it lowered its body slightly when nervous, and how it began to respond to his voice and gestures. One afternoon, Eli decided to try something new. He walked slowly toward Fluffy with an outstretched hand, offering a piece of meat. This time, Fluffy did not step back. It sniffed his hand and took the food directly from him. Eli felt a surge of happiness. "That's it," he said softly. "You trust me more each day." Fluffy rumbled, a sound that seemed almost like a purr, vibrating gently through the clearing. As the days passed, Eli noticed other surprising things. Fluffy seemed curious about him and even playful at times. It would chase small rocks Eli threw or nudge sticks toward him. It had a sense of humor, in a way, and a desire for interaction. Eli laughed quietly, realizing that the villagers' stories had been wrong. Fluffy was not a mindless beast. It was capable of friendship, learning, and emotion. One evening, a sudden noise came from deeper in the forest. Eli froze. Fluffy's ears twitched, and it moved between him and the source of the sound. A small animal had approached and Fluffy sniffed cautiously. Eli realized something incredible: Fluffy was protective. It had begun to understand that Eli was a friend, and it wanted to keep him safe. The creature's instincts, once feared by the villagers, were now signs of intelligence and loyalty. Eli spent hours teaching Fluffy simple commands and gestures. He used pointing, hand signals, and gentle words. Fluffy responded slowly but began to follow him when he walked through the clearing or moved around the forest. It still had its own mind and would pause or resist at times, but the bond was forming. The human and the creature were learning to communicate not with words, but with understanding, patience, and gestures. The villagers remained skeptical. They whispered about the creature, saying it would eventually turn on Eli. But Eli was patient. He knew that fear blinded people to truth. He had seen it with his own eyes. Fluffy was not a monster. It was a being with feelings, capable of trust and deserving of care. One night, as Eli sat beside Fluffy, he noticed how the moonlight reflected off the creature's scales. They shimmered faintly, showing patterns and colors that were beautiful and strange. "You're amazing, Fluffy," Eli said softly. "Not a monster but something special." Fluffy nudged his hand and made a soft, low sound. It was a sound of recognition, of connection, and Eli felt proud. Over time, Fluffy began to seek Eli out on its own. It would wait near the edge of the clearing, eyes glowing softly, showing that it had begun to trust him completely. Eli realized that their relationship was no longer just about survival, it was about friendship. He had taken a creature feared by all and shown it kindness, and in return, Fluffy had shown him loyalty and intelligence. The trust between them grew stronger each day. Eli discovered that Fluffy could understand more than he imagined. It responded to gestures, followed directions cautiously, and even showed curiosity about human objects, like his bag or the lantern. Eli smiled, realizing that Fluffy was not only learning from him but teaching him too, teaching patience, empathy, and how to see beyond fear. Eli's care also changed the villagers slowly. Some began to notice that Fluffy was not attacking, that it stayed with Eli peacefully, and that it even helped in small ways, like alerting Eli to approaching animals or moving debris from the forest path. The first seeds of understanding were planted. People began to whisper differently, curiosity replacing fear, questions replacing panic. Eli spent nights thinking about the future. He knew that Fluffy could never be fully accepted by everyone yet, but he also knew that one human's courage and kindness could change perceptions. He decided to continue building trust, not just with Fluffy but eventually with the village too. He wanted the world to see what he had discovered, that the so-called monster was intelligent, loyal, and capable of love. By the end of the second week, Fluffy allowed Eli to touch its head gently, resting its snout against his shoulder. This small gesture meant everything to Eli. He whispered, "We'll face the world together, Fluffy. One step at a time." Fluffy made a soft rumble, a sound Eli took as agreement. Their bond was complete, not in words but in trust, respect, and mutual care. The forest, once a place of fear, had become a sanctuary of friendship. Eli had taken a creature feared by all, named it Fluffy, and shown it compassion. In return, Fluffy had shown loyalty, courage, and intelligence beyond what humans expected. The beginnings of an extraordinary partnership had been forged, one that could change the way humans and unknown creatures interacted forever. As the moon rose high above the trees, Eli and Fluffy sat together watching the stars. For the first time, Eli felt that fear could be replaced by understanding, and that a single human could make a difference, even in a world full of legends, monsters, and doubt. He whispered again softly, "Tomorrow we'll do more. We'll show them the truth." Fluffy rumbled in response, and for the first time the forest seemed quiet, safe, and full of possibility. Eli had been spending weeks with Fluffy now, and their bond was growing stronger each day. Fluffy had healed from its injuries, and the creature no longer flinched when Eli approached. Instead, it would wait for him, eyes bright with curiosity, sometimes nudging his hand or brushing against his shoulder. Eli felt proud but also curious. There was something unusual about Fluffy. The villagers feared it because of its appearance, but Eli began to suspect that there was more than just intelligence hidden inside. One morning Eli noticed something strange. As Fluffy stepped into a patch of sunlight, its scales shimmered in patterns that seemed to move and shift like water. Eli blinked, leaning closer. "What is that?" he whispered. Fluffy tilted its head, almost as if noticing his attention. Then, with a sudden twitch of its tail, the patterns on its scales brightened and seemed to ripple along its body. Eli realized that this was not just reflection from the sun. Fluffy could control the glow in its scales. Curiosity took over and Eli wanted to see more. He clapped softly, and Fluffy responded by raising its head and pulsing the patterns in its scales in time with the sound. Eli gasped. You can communicate with light." Fluffy rumbled, a sound that seemed proud or happy. Eli realized that the creature's abilities went far beyond what humans had imagined. As the days passed, Eli discovered other surprising skills. Fluffy could move silently through the forest despite its size, avoiding broken branches and snapping twigs. It could sense things Eli could not, like small animals or hidden paths in the forest. Once, Eli dropped a small rock into a river, and Fluffy instinctively used a low hum that caused a small current to shift, moving the rock back to him. Eli was stunned. The creature had abilities that bordered on magical, but they were real, practical, and precise. One afternoon, while exploring deeper into the forest, Eli and Fluffy stumbled upon a small cave. Fluffy immediately stopped at the entrance, ears and scales twitching. Eli held back, unsure, but Fluffy stepped forward and emitted a low, controlled roar. To Eli's amazement, the rocks at the cave entrance began to vibrate slightly and then shifted as if the sound had moved them. Eli realized that Fluffy could manipulate energy through its voice or resonance. It was a hidden ability that explained why the villagers had feared it so much. Eli stepped closer cautiously. "Fluffy, you're amazing," he said softly. The creature lowered its head and nudged his shoulder gently. Eli felt the power humming through its body. It was strong but not reckless. Fluffy had control. It could be dangerous if it wanted, but it had chosen to trust him. Eli understood that trust was the key. The villagers had never seen this side of it because they had only looked through fear. Over the next week, Eli tested Fluffy's abilities carefully. He asked it to move small stones with its hum, and Fluffy responded, lifting them one by one. He threw small sticks and Fluffy used vibrations to catch them mid-air. The creature's intelligence was remarkable, and its powers were more than physical strength. They were energy manipulation, coordination, and precise control. Eli realized that Fluffy could do things that even the most advanced human technology could not. One evening, a sudden sound startled them. A predator from the forest, a large wolf-like alien, emerged from the trees, growling and baring sharp teeth. Eli froze, unsure what to do, but Fluffy moved instantly. It stepped between Eli and the predator, scales glowing, and emitted a deep, vibrating roar. The predator hesitated, ears twitching, and then slowly backed away. Fluffy followed, keeping a low, controlled hum going. Eli realized that the creature's abilities were not just for play, they were for protection. He knelt beside Fluffy, placing a hand on its side. "You're incredible," he said softly. "You can protect yourself, and me." Fluffy rumbled in response, and Eli could feel the vibration through the ground. It was a silent communication, a reassurance that it had him covered. For the first time, Eli understood that the villagers' fear had been misplaced. Fluffy was not a monster. It was a guardian, loyal and intelligent, capable of feats humans could not imagine. Word of Fluffy's abilities began to spread slowly in the village. Some villagers saw from a distance how it moved, how it could manipulate objects, and how it had protected Eli from dangers in the forest. The fear was still there, but curiosity was starting to replace it. Eli knew that one day people would understand, but that day had to come gradually. First, he had to learn everything about Fluffy's powers and teach the creature to trust him completely. Fluffy's intelligence surprised Eli the most. It seemed to understand complex instructions like fetching objects, moving in patterns and responding to gestures. Eli discovered that it could even learn quickly, anticipating what he wanted before he finished speaking or moving. This made training and bonding easier, and Eli began to feel that they were partners, not just a human and a creature. One afternoon, while practicing near a stream, Eli accidentally slipped on the wet rocks. Fluffy reacted instantly, its body twisting in a blur to catch him with its tail before he fell. Eli laughed nervously, realizing how strong and fast Fluffy was. "You really are amazing," he said, brushing wet hair from his face. Fluffy rumbled softly and nudged him gently as if saying, "I've got you." As the sun set, Eli sat beside Fluffy, watching the forest glow in the golden light. "You're not just a creature, Fluffy," he whispered. "You're something extraordinary." Fluffy responded with a low hum, the glow in its scales pulsing slowly. Eli knew that the abilities he had discovered were only the beginning. There were powers he could not yet understand, potential that could surprise everyone, even the humans who had feared it. Eli thought about the villagers and how they had exaggerated Fluffy's dangers. He realized that fear often hides truth, and understanding requires courage. Fluffy was not a monster, they were both victims of misunderstanding. And now, together they could show the world a different story. By nightfall, Fluffy curled up near Eli, keeping its glowing scales faintly bright, like a beacon in the dark forest. Eli whispered, "We'll face whatever comes, Fluffy. I know your powers can help us, but I also know your heart is what matters most." Fluffy rumbled softly, a sound that vibrated through the air and into Eli's chest, a promise of trust and loyalty. Eli realized then that the creature was not only extraordinary because of its abilities but because it had chosen to trust a human. That trust, combined with courage and intelligence, could overcome fear, danger, and prejudice. Fluffy's hidden abilities were remarkable, but the real power lay in their growing bond, the connection between human and alien creature that no one else could understand. As stars appeared in the sky, Eli knew their journey was only beginning. Fluffy's powers were incredible, but it was their friendship, trust, and understanding that would guide them through whatever challenges lay ahead. The monster of the forest was no longer a threat. It was a friend, a protector, and something extraordinary in the making. The morning sun filtered through the trees, casting golden light on the forest clearing. Eli and Fluffy were practicing as usual, moving through the woods, testing Fluffy's abilities and learning from each other. Eli had grown confident in their bond, but he knew the village still feared Fluffy. Today, though, something felt different. The air was heavier, charged with tension. Eli sensed that a test was coming, not just for Fluffy but for him as well. Suddenly, a distant rumble echoed through the forest. Eli froze. The sound grew louder, shaking the ground beneath them. Fluffy's ears twitched and it crouched low, tail coiling around its body. Eli realized what was happening before he saw it. A massive pack of alien predators, creatures the size of small buildings, were heading toward the village. Their roar carried through the forest, frightening birds into the sky and scattering small animals. Eli's heart raced. He had never faced danger like this. He knew that if these predators reached the village, destruction and chaos would follow. People would panic and many would be hurt. He glanced at Fluffy, whose golden eyes shone with intensity. The creature understood immediately. It was time to act. "Fluffy," Eli said, voice steady despite the fear rising in his chest. "We have to stop them. Together." Fluffy rumbled low, the vibration moving through the ground, a sound Eli understood as agreement. They had trained, built trust, and now it was time to test everything they had learned. They moved quickly toward the edge of the forest, where the predators were approaching. Fluffy's scales glimmered in the morning light, glowing faintly as it prepared to defend. Eli stayed close, ready to act. The first predator came into view, its massive claws tearing at the trees. Eli could see the villagers in the distance, running toward safety, unaware that a human and a creature they feared were about to protect them. Fluffy stepped forward and let out a low, harmonic roar. The sound rippled through the forest, shaking branches and sending the predators staggering backward. Eli watched in awe as the predators faltered, unaccustomed to the vibrations and energy Fluffy produced. The creature's control was precise, not reckless. Each pulse of energy pushed the predators away, keeping them from reaching the village. Eli ran alongside Fluffy, shouting directions. "Left. Slow them down. Keep them away from the houses." Fluffy responded instantly, weaving through the trees, using its strength, size, and energy to block and redirect the attackers. The predators were powerful, but they had never faced anything like Fluffy's combination of intelligence and force. One of the predators broke through the first wave, charging toward Eli. Fluffy reacted immediately, using a surge of energy from its scales to create a barrier of vibration between Eli and the attacker. The predator stumbled, knocked off balance, and Eli seized the moment to roll to safety. Fluffy's roar echoed, pushing back another predator that tried to flank them. Eli realized something profound. Fear had nothing on courage and cleverness. One human and one creature, trusting each other completely, could turn the tide. The battle continued for hours. Eli coordinated with Fluffy, signaling with hand gestures and voice commands. Fluffy used its energy, its strength, and its intelligence to redirect the predators, protect Eli, and keep them away from the village. Eli even discovered new ways to use Fluffy's abilities, throwing rocks to distract predators while Fluffy amplified vibrations to block them, using branches as temporary barricades, and guiding the creature to strategic positions. As the fight wore on, the villagers began to see what was happening. Some had hidden in trees or behind walls, watching in disbelief. The monster they had feared was defending their homes, working alongside a human in ways they could never have imagined. Fear began to shift into awe, slowly replacing panic with understanding. One particularly massive predator managed to break through Fluffy's defenses. Eli's heart raced as it advanced on him, claws raised and eyes glowing. Fluffy leaped in front of him, tail swinging with immense force, blocking the attack. It then emitted a series of harmonic roars, creating a wave of energy that lifted the predator off the ground and sent it crashing backward into the trees. Eli ran to the creature's side, realizing that they had truly become partners in battle. By late afternoon, the predators began to retreat, realizing that they could not overcome the combined intelligence, courage and energy of Eli and Fluffy. The forest grew quiet again, except for Fluffy's soft rumble and Eli's heavy breathing. The villagers slowly emerged, staring in amazement at the human and the creature that had saved them. Their eyes were wide with shock, disbelief and slowly growing respect. Eli knelt beside Fluffy, placing a hand on its glowing scales. "We did it," he said softly. Fluffy responded with a low hum, vibrating through the ground and into Eli's chest. They had faced the danger together and they had won. But more importantly, they had shown that trust, courage and understanding could triumph over fear and aggression. The villagers approached cautiously. Some were still afraid, keeping their distance, but others began to see the truth. It wasn't a monster," one whispered. "It saved us." Eli nodded. "Yes, and it trusted me. Together we stopped them." Fear made you see a monster where there was none. For the first time, Eli realized that the turning point was not just the battle itself, but the moment when perception changed. Fluffy's abilities had been impressive, but it was the courage, intelligence and cooperation of a single human that had made the difference. Humanity's strength lay not only in technology or numbers but in understanding, empathy and bravery, the qualities that could transform fear into triumph. As the sun began to set, casting orange and purple hues across the forest, Eli and Fluffy walked back toward the village. Villagers began to gather, some slowly approaching, others remaining cautious but silent. They had seen the creature's abilities, its loyalty and its courage. They had seen a human who was not afraid to trust and care. Slowly, the first seeds of acceptance began to grow. Eli knelt beside Fluffy, stroking its scales gently. "Tomorrow will be different," he said softly. "People will understand more. You'll see." Fluffy responded with a gentle hum, the glow in its scales pulsating slowly. Eli smiled, realizing that they had reached a new stage of their journey. The turning point had come, not just in the forest battle but in the hearts of those who had watched from the shadows. That night, as Eli and Fluffy rested under the stars, he thought about the future. The bond they had formed was stronger than ever, built on trust, courage and shared triumph. He knew that more challenges would come, but they would face them together. The forest, once a place of fear, had become a place of proof. A human and a creature could change perceptions, overcome danger and turn fear into respect. Eli whispered to Fluffy, "We've shown them who you really are. But there's more to come. Together we'll show the world that humans and creatures like you can be allies, friends and protectors. You're not just a monster, you're extraordinary." Fluffy's hum vibrated in agreement, a promise of loyalty and courage. The village, once afraid, had begun to see the truth. And Eli knew that this turning point was only the beginning. The monster they had feared had become a hero in their eyes, and a young human had shown that courage, empathy and understanding could bridge the gap between worlds. Together Eli and Fluffy had changed everything. The next morning the village looked different. Word had spread of the battle in the forest, and the villagers were still in awe. Some stayed at the edges, unsure what to think, while others quietly came closer, hoping to see the creature that had saved them. Eli walked beside Fluffy, his hand resting on the glowing scales, feeling the bond they had built stronger than ever. He knew this was the day everything could change, not with force but with understanding. As they approached the village square, people stopped what they were doing. Children peeked from behind walls, their eyes wide, whispering to each other. Adults exchanged nervous glances. Eli raised his hand and spoke clearly, "Fluffy is not a monster. It is a friend and it saved our village yesterday. It trusts me and you can trust it too." Fluffy stepped forward, head low and calm, tail gently moving behind. Its scales shimmered softly, reflecting the sun, and the villagers could see the beauty and intelligence in the creature for the first time. Some gasped, others stared in disbelief, and a few slowly took a cautious step forward. An elder came forward, his voice trembling but firm. "All these years we feared the creature in the woods. We thought it was dangerous, but yesterday, it saved us. How can we trust it fully?" Eli smiled. "By seeing the truth for yourselves. By watching it and understanding it, not fearing it." Fluffy rumbled low, almost as if agreeing with Eli, and the vibrations went through the ground. It was a comforting sound, not threatening. Children began to approach first, holding out small sticks or pieces of bread. Fluffy sniffed them carefully, then nudged one of the smaller kids gently with its snout. Laughter bubbled through the square, and some adults chuckled nervously, realizing that the creature was gentle with those who showed no fear. Eli encouraged them, guiding people slowly. "Don't rush it. Let Fluffy come to you. Show kindness and you'll see its heart. Over the next hours, more villagers cautiously stepped closer. Some touched Fluffy's scales lightly, marveling at the shimmer and patterns. Others simply observed, seeing the intelligence and care in its eyes. Eli watched proudly, understanding that this moment, the moment of trust and acceptance, was the true victory. Fear was being replaced with understanding, suspicion with respect. Fluffy, once called a monster, began to explore the village freely. It helped carry heavy loads with its strength, nudged fallen tools toward farmers, and even helped children retrieve small objects they had dropped. Each action proved that the creature's intentions were good. Eli guided interactions, showing the villagers that Fluffy could be a partner, not a threat. By evening, the village square was calm, and the initial shock had faded. People began to share stories of what they had seen, the creature's bravery during the attack, its intelligence and its loyalty to Eli. Many admitted that their fear had been based on legends and exaggerations, not reality. Eli realized that this was the essence of humanity's strength: courage to act, empathy to understand, and the ability to teach others through example. Eli knelt beside Fluffy, brushing his hand along the soft scales near its head. "Look at this," he said quietly. "You've changed everything. Not with force but with trust and courage. People see you now." Fluffy responded with a soft hum, a sound of connection and understanding. Eli felt a warmth in his chest, pride, joy, and hope all in one. The villagers began to gather around, some sitting, some standing, but all observing. A young boy stepped forward, extending a hand. Fluffy sniffed it carefully, then lowered its head so the boy could touch it. Laughter and applause followed. The ice of fear was breaking. The monster had become part of the community, and humans were learning that bravery and compassion could overcome suspicion. Eli addressed the villagers, his voice calm but firm. "Fluffy is more than just a creature in the forest. It has powers, yes, but more importantly, it has a heart. It can love, protect, and understand. And it trusted me when no one else would. That trust is powerful, and it can teach us how to live better, not in fear but in understanding." Fluffy moved beside him, tail brushing against the ground, scales glowing faintly. Children laughed as they touched it, adults began to nod in recognition, and even the most skeptical elders stepped closer, seeing the truth for themselves. Fear had turned into respect, and suspicion had changed to awe. As the sun set, painting the sky with streaks of orange and purple, Eli and Fluffy stood together in the square. People surrounded them, talking quietly, smiling, and sharing small gestures of acceptance. Some brought food for Fluffy, others left small gifts, and all watched in wonder. Eli realized that humanity's true power was not just in strength or numbers, but in courage, kindness, and the ability to bridge gaps between worlds. Fluffy's presence was no longer a threat, it was a symbol. It reminded the villagers that appearances could be deceiving, that fear often hid truth, and that one human's bravery could change the perception of an entire community. Eli had faced danger, uncertainty, and skepticism, and through patience, empathy, and trust, he had helped a creature once feared to find its place in the world. That night, as the village quieted, Eli walked with Fluffy to the edge of the forest. Stars sparkled overhead, and the cool night air carried the scent of the trees. Eli knelt beside Fluffy, placing his hand on its glowing scales. "We did it," he whispered. "You're not a monster. You're a hero. And together we've shown them what courage and trust can do." Fluffy responded with a low hum, vibrating gently through Eli's hand. It was a sound of agreement, connection, and triumph. Eli smiled, knowing that this was more than just a personal victory. It was a human victory, a proof that empathy, understanding, and courage could overcome fear, suspicion, and prejudice. Over the next weeks, the village continued to accept Fluffy. People learned to interact with it, children played near it under Eli's watchful eye, and adults began to see its value beyond fear. Eli's actions had changed not only the creature's life but the lives of everyone in the village. Humanity had triumphed, not through weapons or force but through trust, empathy, and courage. Fluffy became part of the village, a guardian and friend. Eli continued to teach and guide it, and together they explored new ways to help and protect the people. Every day, the villagers saw the proof that fear was never the final answer. Through understanding and bravery, humans could bring harmony where others saw only danger. As Eli sat beside Fluffy that night, watching the stars reflect in its glowing eyes, he felt a deep sense of satisfaction. They had faced fear, danger, and doubt and had emerged stronger. Fluffy was no longer a monster. It was a symbol of what humanity could achieve: courage, empathy, and the power to change hearts. Eli whispered softly, "This is just the beginning, Fluffy. Together we can show the world that even the most feared creatures can become allies. All it takes is trust, courage, and a human heart." Fluffy rumbled in agreement, the glow in its scales pulsing like a heartbeat. In that quiet moment under the endless sky, Eli understood the truth of humanity's greatness. Not in weapons, not in armies, but in the ability to see beyond fear, to act with courage, and to build bonds that could change the world. Together, human and dragon had triumphed, and the village would never forget the day a monster became a friend, and a hero. The forest, once full of shadows and fear, now echoed with laughter, trust, and the gentle hum of a creature no longer feared. And Eli knew in his heart that this was the essence of what it meant to be human: to face danger, show kindness, and create extraordinary bonds that even legends could not imagine.